not sure about you guys, but I've seen bleach dye shirts pretty much everywhere, and I've been super keen to try it out. So I got myself some bleach, I got myself some t-shirts, and I got something else that I thought I'd add my own spin to it. So let's get clacking. So I'm going to start with bleaching of the shirt first. So I have some bleach in a nice handy spray bottle. I just picked it up from the local plastic shop, and I'm just using household Chick. It's actually lemon scented. I'm also going to put a fan on because obviously this stuff smells quite strong, and I'm in a small room with the windows closed so that the sound isn't terrible, the door is closed. So I would prefer it if you were to try this in an open environment, where perhaps even outside, spraying the bleach, but unfortunately for me at this point, it's not really a possibility. So I'm going to take one for the team and hope that you don't follow my lead. Please don't. So I've tried this on another shirt, and I put plastic in between so that the bleach wouldn't seep through to the back. But I don't mind if the bleach seeps through to the back, because then at least it's a little bit uniform on either side. So I'm going to try it now without anything in between, and then we'll see what it does. So obviously what we do is we try and figure out where we want our wording or whatever we want to put on the t-shirt to go. Because what I'm going to do first is I'm going to bleach first, then I'm going to put something down, and then we're going to fabric paint over it in little splotches. So the bleach area would need to be quite big, because with the wording here, the bleach kind of needs to be a little bit almost everywhere. Then of course when it comes to the bleach, when you spray it out, whether you want it to be a stream or like a cone spray, because that will affect what the bleached item will look like at the end of the day. If it comes out in circles, then you're going to have bleach circles all over. What you could probably do as well is put the bleach in a bowl and dab it on. There are many different application methods, but we're just going to test the spray method at the moment. And this is just a t-shirt that I got from Vic Bay, so I'm not sure what color it'll come out underneath. And when it comes to black t-shirts, they're typically either green, red, or blue undertones, if that's the right way to say it. So it might come out a little pink, it might come out a little green, it might come out a little blue. It's kind of a lucky packet, I'm not sure. I've never tried it on this black t-shirt before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and stick to this kind of area. Let's kind of see what happens. Looks like a little bit red orange, which is quite cool. You can kind of see the color pulling out already. I don't want to do it too much bleach in the beginning, because otherwise you kind of soak the whole garment, and then it takes a really long time to dry. I've even got the fan on it so that it dries a little bit quicker. And if you do it in little bursts like this, I feel that you can control what the bleach looks like at the end of the day much easier than what I did, where you kind of like just dump a whole bunch of bleach on and then you're like, oops. So I would suggest, if you have the time, try and take it a little bit slower. That way it also won't pull through to the back. You can even iron it beforehand if you want to get rid of these creases. Try and make sure that you have a bit of an even spray. But let's try a little bit more. Because I do kind of want it, like I said, more concentrated in the middle, so that I can have my pictures and things like that. But I do also kind of want it to go, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it up at the top there, but I also kind of want it to go on the straps at the top, just because I think that'll look cool. Something else that I also like to do, which might seem a little bit strange, is I like to try and use my left hand as well, because typically when you use your right hand, like you can see now, it's kind of more directed on that side. So if you use your left hand, then you can kind of more evenly spray it, and you know, it's good for dexterity, I guess. Also, the shape of the droplet clearly makes a very big difference. Instead of spraying it quickly, if you kind of spray the bottle, at least this particular bottle, if you spray it a little bit slower, it tends to let out bigger drops of water. So if you want to have like maybe a blood splatter type look, because that's kind of what this one is looking like, it might be. That could be quite cool to have more of a different kind of look. Saturated in the middle there, just because I want a little bit more coverage, and then we just wait for it to dry a little bit. You can even put this on a hanger in the sun to let it dry out a little bit faster, because when we need to go for the second step, we need it to be dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go and hang this in the sun. I might even just give it another last little sprig for some heavy droplets. Let it absorb a little bit, and as we can see, it's only slightly pulled through to the back, which is not too bad. Obviously it's bleached through the fibers of the front, but that's perfectly fine. And all of the smell really makes me want to get into a pool, because that's all it smells like. It smells like a public pool at the moment, and even though it's almost winter, it makes me want to get into a pool. So I'm going to go pop this in the sun, and then we'll come back and work on our vinyl section. Okay, so you're joining me a little bit later, and what I have done is I have cut this out using my Silhouette Cameo, but of course you can do this with a Cricut or a Brother machine. Doesn't really matter, it's not a problem. And then I've weeded out the words and put transfer tape on top of it. So what we're going to do now is just turn it over, weed the backing off the paper, the vinyl. Okay, then we place it onto our t-shirt, obviously wherever we want the design to go on the t-shirt, trying to make it even. Then what I normally do is I normally kind of burnish it on a little bit and then let it sit for about 10 minutes to try and get the adhesive to cure a little bit more onto the t-shirt. You'll still be able to pull it off fine, but obviously if you don't really do that, then when you're putting on the paint seeps through on the sides. So typically what you want to do is you want to do very thin layers of paint a few times, because otherwise it will seep through and then you'll get uneven edges. And these thicker fonts work typically a little bit better. I've actually tried the inverse method as well, which I can do a video on in the future, but to be honest, wasn't really a big fan of the results, so I'm not too keen on showing that. But anyway, I digress. So I'm just going to burnish it on a little bit and then let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then we can come back and start with the next step. And also, if you're a little bit messy like me, then maybe what you might want to do is kind of what I did, is you leave a little bit of a border on the outside. You can have a little bit bigger of a border, but this is the border that I chose. So I'm just going to have to be careful on these edges and hope that I don't stuff it up. But yeah, we'll see you back in 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been a few minutes and we're going to take off the transfer tape. And then I will save this for later. So I actually have a couple of fabric paints that I'm going to be using. Honestly, it was just a little kit that I got from P&A. Easy, fun fabric painting. So I'm not even sure how good these are. I'm just testing them out. Let's see. So what I'm going to be doing is trying to go for more like the rainbow effect. I might try and do it like that. So I've got some sponges. I'm going to be using this one side of each sponge. I've already played around with it a little bit. It was okay. So let's see. We can start off with the orange on the top and then maybe just do a little bit of the orange there on that side, and then move our way through with the other colors. So I'm going to start off with this one. Probably need to be shaken a little bit beforehand. Not even sure how the orange will come out against this orangey color background, but let's see. So kind of take a little bit. You can dab it on the vinyl first if you want to just get a little bit on, because like I said, we want to be working in small layers, not irrelevant layers, but we want to build our way up to a bigger color. So just thin layers. Let's do that R a little bit there. So let's do another super thin coat. Again, this orange was probably a terrible idea. Let's see. And then let's move on to the pink. So for now I'm just using the lids because it's a little bit easier. So I'm just going to turn the sponge over and use the other side. If this is gonna fail spectacularly, more than likely. It'll probably be like the faintest logo ever. I'll probably end up like putting HTV over it or something, but something fun to test. Why not? Fan on and have it blowing on this so that it can dry it out a little bit, so we can maybe get the layers going a little bit faster, because nobody wants to be sitting here for 12 hours while this thing dries. I feel like now, because this one's dried quite a bit, so I feel like now we can be a little bit more aggressive in our coats. If you guys are enjoying this content, please give it a thumbs up. I make lots of similar type content, so if you want to see my kind of content in the future, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to get notifications of when I release videos, hit the notification bell. I'm actually going to let this dry for a little while, especially those two sides. You know, I've been putting it on quite thick because obviously they shine through a little bit more, a little bit less pigmented. So I want to make sure that they still look good when we take the vinyl off, because that's a real potential problem. So I want to let this dry for a while, and then what I might do is I might go in with my paintbrush and kind of cake it on a bit thick and then let it dry again further. Maybe even with the assistance of a heat gun or something like that. Essentially, I don't want to lift this up and then you can't even read what was written because it wasn't thick enough, which I think is what is going to happen here. And I will probably still upload this even if it is a fail, because showing you how you can do these things is quite fun. What you could even do with this, if you didn't want to use fabric paint, is you could put the stencil on and then bleach the stencil so that only this section gets bleach on it and then nothing else. So you might need a, you know, make sure that you corner everything off because splatter might land there and then it'll look ugly. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things that you can do. You can have the positive covered and then bleach it and then take the positive off so that you have stuff left there. Maybe even I'll try that in another follow-up video, because that is quite an easy thing to do with your silhouette. I just figured this was something a little bit different than what other people have been doing. There are quite a few videos out there and I wanted to kind of make mine a little bit different. For you it'll be a second, but for me it'll be quite a while until I come back and go over the orange pink. Maybe the purple is okay, but I might still go over it anyway. We'll see you soon.
One eternity later.
Okay, it's been a few minutes. Going to try and make this a little bit thicker, but I'm going to use my brush this time. Probably not a very good choice because it's a really thick brush, but let's see. This is not how fabric paints are supposed to be used, but I hadn't realized when I bought them how thin these fabric paints were going to be. So obviously we're testing something here. I mean, it's something new, so not all tests are good ones, and we're going to have failures as well. And I think that it's important to show the failures, because, you know, if you guys just think that absolutely everything I do turns out perfectly, that's not right, because that never happens. You know, every time I do a project or something like that, like I'll test it and figure it out first, or, you know, it's been something that I've done many times before, so I know exactly what to do, those kinds of things. But I also want this to be a channel where you guys get to experience my failures as well, because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm only human, and I really want to make sure that you guys see that, you know, it's okay to fail. I mean, we all know that it's okay to fail. I hope that we all do fail, and it's not necessarily how you fail, or it's not necessarily the fact that you have failed, but it's more like, what do you do once you have failed? You know, how do you save it? If you've done this before, what can you do to fix it? I mean, if I had done this on a white t-shirt, this design would have looked spectacular. But it's also a case of, you know, if you do have a failure like this, then how can you fix it? How can you change it? How can you recover from it? And I think that those kinds of things are really important as well. Nobody succeeds at everything 100% of the time. Nobody on the face of this planet. So it's not about how much you succeed, it's about what you learn from your failures. So let's hope we learn something from this one. Number one, don't try and fabric paint on black or a dark color, which I think most of you are smart enough to know. I just like to push the boundaries sometimes. So let's see. Something else that I wanted to know as well, would you guys like to have a live video at some point? So like we go through the community and we pick out a topic of a craft that you want to do with me, and then probably be on a Saturday afternoon, probably around 3 o'clock South African time, somewhere around there. We can actually do the project together and you can see the different fails that happen, and then you guys can ask questions and whatnot. I mean, I think that could be quite a fun thing to do. It'll obviously look completely different, because I mean, I'm not even sure how my setup would be for a live, but if it's something that you are keen on and that you would like to do, let me know in the comments. I've started thinking about doing it. Follow lots of people on YouTube and Facebook and things like that, and I love joining in for the live videos that they have. It's a different kind of interactivity, you know. I mean, it would probably be more of this type of a vibe where I'm busy doing something and just talking about random stuff or answering questions or something like that. If it's something that you would like to do, I'm happy to try and see if I can set that up. Maybe we can work towards it if it's not something that I would be able to do now, but let me know. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the fan on it again to help it dry, and then I think we might be forced to take it off because I don't think it's going to get very much better than this. Maybe another coat. Let's see how it reacts to this thick coat. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of weeping here as an example, and here. Either way, I'm super keen to see the results. If it doesn't work, I'll just HTV over it. It's not really the end of the world. Let's check back in a few minutes.
A few moments later.
Anyway, let's do one more coat on some of the colors, like maybe just the orange and the pink, because I think the rest of the colors look pretty good. Like the purple, that's solid. The blue will probably also look great. Pink will probably look good, except for maybe this section here. I feel like this section is not doing too well. But the orange, I think, definitely needs a little bit of assistance. So let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to do one last coat of the pink and the orange. Start out with the orange, actually. And again, like I said, I'm 100% sure this is not the correct way to use fabric paint. I'm not familiar with fabric paint. Just playing around. I think I'm even going to title this video, which you would have seen before you even clicked on it, testing or something like that, something to that effect, just to let you know that, like, not pretending to be an expert at fabric paint. Actually quite an idiot when it comes to fabric paint, I think. I mean, also, if you were doing these t-shirts to sell, like, the amount of time that this is taking. Granted, it's pretty much because I'm being an idiot and trying to do something different. So, I mean, if you were doing this on white, it would be another story entirely. But, yeah, you would never be able to sell this to make a profit because you would have to charge, like, 400 Rand a shirt for there to be any kind of profit margin because of the time that it's taking to actually do this. This would be a passion project, 100%. Should we do a little more on the green? So this is where I'd like it to be interactive. Like, yes, Kelly, do more on the green. Or like, no, Kelly, that's a terrible idea. There's also too much blue here. It's like not even drying. Oh, this is so funny. Lazy now, not even cleaning the brush. That's how you can tell that I'm like, I'm just giving up on this project. Probably gonna be so surprised though. It's probably gonna turn out looking amazing. Here's to hoping. That is gonna be it for now. I'm going to leave this overnight and let's hope that it looks better in the morning.
One eternity later.
All right, it's now the next day. I could probably put another coat on this, but I'm scared of it cracking once it comes off. So I think I'm not going to, and we'll just have to see what it looks like, see if it works. Let's move all this off because I'm going to be pulling the vinyl off. So obviously this is a method that you can use when you don't have a heat press and you want to make t-shirts. Like I said, I wouldn't necessarily go this in depth. This is definitely more of a passion piece. Yeah, so let's just take a look at, see what it looks like. How much it's bled, if it worked. Excuse my nail, it actually broke off not too long ago. I need to fix it. You could try using your weeding tool, but the problem is that it'll rip the threads of the t-shirt. Okay, I'm suitably impressed. I mean, sure, that doesn't look perfect. It would have been much better with the darker colors. But I mean, that's not too bad. You can still kind of see that it says create a life you love. I am honestly thrilled with the results. I think it looks fantastic. So what the instructions says is you must turn it over and iron it from the back, not obviously on the front, iron it from the back to make sure that it sets and that it won't come off. So I'm definitely going to do that. I'm just going to get my iron out, heat it up, remove the plastic because that would be disastrous. Imagine that. I'm honestly thrilled. I'm honestly thrilled at how it looks. Like I mentioned, I could probably go in there and easily, you know, go over it, or you could probably even take I'm trying to see if I have. I think I have a black Sharpie and it's downstairs. You could totally even take a black Sharpie and then go around the outside. You'd probably have to do that by hand at this point because we've obviously now removed the vinyl. I'm going to try and zoom in on this. I'm not sure what the quality will be like, but as an example here, you can see how it's bled a little bit around, ironically, the thickest word. Maybe it's because the paint was a little bit thicker there and that's why it bled a little bit. But you could totally take a black pen and go around this and you would have pretty much a perfect phrase on your t-shirt. I'm so thrilled with this. I think this looks fantastic. This would also look amazing as a bleach design. So instead of bleaching first and then putting the fabric paint on, you could literally put the vinyl on, spray it, bleach it, remove, and then that would pretty much do the same kind of thing. That's another thing that I will try, like I mentioned, at some point. And then we also see, you know, that the back, okay, so the color is bled through a little bit to the back. So maybe that's something that we would be able to do then for next time, is to remember to put a piece of paper, or maybe not a piece of paper, but maybe like a piece of plastic in between so that it doesn't bleed through. But it's not really the end of the world. That might even wash out if I don't set it from the back. But yeah, the bleach didn't come through to the back of the t-shirt. It's just the fabric paint that did, obviously in the parts where it was a little bit thicker. So let's get out the iron and let's see. While that warms up, it's going to be time to prep this surface. So let's get everything switched out. This is actually the silicone mat that I got with my heat press. You normally press onto this, so I'm just going to use the same thing. I honestly don't have an ironing board, and the only reason why I have an iron is for my crafts. I don't iron anything. So I'm going to be putting it face down. I feel like I should put something underneath this. This is my Teflon pressing pillow. I got it from Amazon. I'll put the link down below. They are super, super great when it comes to pressing uneven things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put this underneath because I don't know if this will kind of warm up and bleed a little bit. And I really like my silicone mat to be clean, or as clean as possible. So I'm going to not take any chances. I feel like I should do this inside out. Okay, so it's specifically said to iron on the back of the print, and I also just read that that you shouldn't iron on top of existing paint as it will just wash off in the wash. So that makes this whole thing kind of awkward. Let's see. My iron is now hot, so let's give it a go. It also just said iron thoroughly. Literally no other information. Do I press hard? Do I not press very hard? Temperature, duration. I've just put the fan on because this thing stinks. Combination of the bleach and the and the fabric paint, I think. Anyway, let's take it out. I kind of never want to wash it now. I love it. Yeah, it does feel a little bit different now that I've actually ironed it. You can feel it doesn't feel as plasticky, maybe here. So I mean that's probably all gonna wash straight out, which is a bit of a pity. But let's see. I mean it was a test, it was an experiment, and I will keep you updated as to whether it washed out or not. For those updates, you can always follow me on Instagram at Let's Get Clacking, just to see if it actually worked and if it held up long term. I'll be doing a little bit of a long term test, and then maybe in a couple of weeks time or a couple of months time I can do a follow-up video where we test out the other bleaching method and we can revisit this and see what it looks like after a few washes. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please let me know in the comments if you tried this method and you know what kind of results that you got. And subscribe to our channel if you want to see craft tutorials. I try and do craft tutorials that you can do on the Cameo, the Cricut and the Brother. However, obviously my strength lies within the Silhouette family, so a lot of my tutorials will be Silhouette based. But I do try to make tutorials like this that you can do no matter what machine you have. Well, thanks very much for joining everybody, and remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.